I'm playing with my buttons over here. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We were having a great discussion over in the group, and I'll talk a little bit more about the at the very end about the virtual meetings and how NABO is going to proceed. I'm just going to say this quickly, and I was saying it in the group: is we will continue virtual. We It's too great of a risk for everybody to try to come together and um, as some of the people were saying, the ladies were saying in the group was they kind of liked, I think, let's see, let me find names that just switched. Jane, you said it. It sometimes it's just easier now in this virtual world that you can easily jump on a call and not have to worry about drive time, and you can use that drive time for something else. Right now, you can best believe we are not changing as far as virtual, as long as the governor states what he states, and then as a country as a whole, we will stay virtual. NABO headquarters, nationals isn't saying anything different. They're still going down the same path. You're going to see more activities like the virtual academy. If you haven't signed up, it's still time. The virtual academy is not just for leaders, it's for all members, and they have some great workshops for you as a whole, for you as your business, and just to see what else is going on. So take the time. It was going to be in my announcements later on, but I'm going to do it now. Take the time to really look at some of the different activities that's going on that's virtual. Like you said, you're not driving. And so take advantage of that time and the different activities that's going on. To add to that, as I shared, banks are not rushing back open. A lot of them, I mean, they're open, but it's limited how they're doing it. But it's going to stay virtual. I've heard a lot of rumors and conversation with people that's working at banks and said they probably are going to be closed for, you can count on till about September, August, September. So, and some are saying for the rest of the year is what they're being told. So if the banks are saying it, the governor is screaming, the president is screaming, guess what? We all gonna follow suit. And so we will continue to try to be creative and also offer some night events. We just want y'all to join us when we do that. We had a wonderful night event in January. Earlier this, I keep forgetting we are in January now. Earlier this year, and it was wonderful. It was an absolute self-care and balance one. But we want more of y'all to participate. So we just hope that you will do that. Yeah, the yoga and the facials, and it was a great event. So we're going to try to give you, we understand you're going to need a break during the day, especially you can't jump on those Zoom calls. You got the kids at home, your spouse or whatever at home. So we're trying to add a little bit of variety, but we need your participation with it. So I hope I can count on you. Welcome, Terry, Emily. I'm glad we can see your face. Thank you. I know you may be in and out. Thank you, Janice, Carlitha. I'm going to introduce the board in a few minutes. Tom, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Sarah, welcome. Hi, Penny. Hi, Jane. Megan, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Karina, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Hi, Elizabeth. Holly is always, and AMG is in the background taking care of us. Wendy, we love you. We was just talking about you in the peer groups, and Janice was talking about you. So some of them are going to be contacting you. Our immediate past president Olala is on with us, and Catherine Burnett is on the board too with the corporate partner. So welcome everybody, and we're glad to have you. I'm going to jump right in. I know, Jane, I talked to you yesterday, and she was like, "You're calling me?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm calling. I'm Happy New Year to those that I have not seen." But we want to make sure that we try to spend some time. So you're going to get phone calls from different ones at different times. So we're glad to have you join us. Several people said to me, "I have not gotten the email." And Holly is like screaming to me in email saying, "Tell people to check your spam." So please make sure that you're checking your spam box, that you're not missing all the different wonderful things that's going on, but check your spam, check your spam. So let me go through some quick recognitions. Do we have any service members on with us today? If you do, just raise your hand. Welcome. I don't see public sector officials. Do we have any public sector officials? If we do, welcome. And for those that will watch the replay, corporate partners, I know we got our corporate partners on. I see a few. If you could raise your hand. There it is. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do to help us. Community partners. Yes, Catherine is one. We have any of our community partners on? Welcome and thank you. Our members, I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. To all our members, thank you. And those that are not members, we want you to talk to some of the other people because we want you to become a member too and not miss out. So to our guests, any guests, I think we're all members right now. Okay, we're looking good. So I'm gonna quickly go through and identify our board. So I mentioned Olala. Olala, can you show your face right quick? She may not be able to. I'll keep going. Okay, Emily, can you wave at us? Emily Parks is our president-elect. Jess McLam is not on at this time. Shauna is not on. You'll get to meet them at another time. AMG, and she wears two hats. We got AMG, the business, and then we have our corporate partners, Holly Van Apeldoorn and Catherine Burnett. Can you both wave your hands? There she is. Catherine, can you wave? There you go. One of our ambassadors, I don't see her on yet, is Annette Taylor. And you will hear from Janice Cutler, our professional development. If you were in the group earlier, you had a chance to talk to Janice, and she's going to talk a little bit later. We also have Wendy. You do so much behind the scenes. I just gotta, I gotta let you. You want to share a little bit because I know Janice is going to be on the program, but can you share a little bit about the peer groups and the work that you and Janice are doing?
Sure. Yeah. We're one of the main reasons I joined NAWBO almost 2 years ago is because of the idea of peer groups. And so I joined one this past October. Peer groups are 6 to 10 or so women and or men. Tom, you're welcome. Who get together typically once a month to focus on our business and to get the ear, the insight, the support, the opinions, the perspective of other people in business to help us grow our businesses. There are three peer groups right now, but we're looking to start more. So one of the roles that I have signed up for is to help steer those who are interested into peer groups. I have found mine tremendously valuable. And if you are interested in learning more, I would love to talk with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Wendy. We really appreciate you. All right. Next is Carlitha Ward, and I'm actually going to, Carlitha Ward handles membership. She's going to share a few words, and then we're going to kick right into the program, and she is going to introduce Janice Cutler, who will moderate the panel. I'm not going to hold you long. I'll say a few more words at the very end, but thank you and welcome. Carlitha, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's good to be here. Good to see all of your smiling faces and to engage in this awesome conversation. We have a really good group this morning, so thank you all for being here. Let me just say a word about the membership committee and our membership efforts. As it turns out, we've got a couple of our membership committee members on the call, so I would like to recognize them. Tom Schaefer is one who's going to be one of our panelists today, and then Elizabeth Skibby is the other on the membership committee. Deb Meehan and Shelley Tench are the other two. I'm sure all of you or some of you know all of those names. But we're always recruiting for new NAWBO members, or and also recruiting for people who were members in the past and who would like to be reinstated. So it's not just new members, but it's bringing back former members as well. And we know situations and circumstances, evolve, and sometimes people have to step back. But we'd love to welcome and to invite back any former members that you know of, or that you think might have expressed an interest, or that you think we could reach out to and would receive that. So we're always recruiting new members, and so those, we need all of us that are members. We just want to solicit your help. You know other women business owners, or other women that aspire to own businesses. Even brothers like Tom and Johnny Bass, Naw Bros. We certainly want to encourage those to attend our events, to check us out, to see if what NAWBO is about aligns with their goals and their aspirations. Hopefully they can find a connection. But we need all of our members to help us in the recruitment process. We have a membership committee of 5, but obviously we can't cover the whole landscape. We need everybody's input. If you know of somebody, send me their name. Just send me an email. My information is, I think we're probably, I don't know how, Carnella, if we're planning to share contact information, but it's, my email address is grmembership01@gmail.com. grmembership, that's Greater Raleigh Membership, grmembership01@gmail.com. So send me, email me their names. I'll be glad to reach out to the individuals. I would love to be able to say that, you referred me. Wendy Gates Corbett is right here on my screen. So I'll just say, as an example, I'd love to be able to say, hey, your friend or your colleague, Wendy Gates Corbett, gave me your name. As an example, one of our ladies, one of our members gave me a list of 10 prospects, 10 people that she knew in Raleigh, in the Raleigh area, that would be prospects. I reached out to every one of them, and I think 3 of them actually joined, 2 or 3 of them actually joined. But it was a good way for me to make connections with the others, and hopefully a seed was planted and they'll be able to join at some time in the future. So we just want everybody to get involved. Recruitment is all of our responsibility. The membership committee is just kind of leading that charge. So thank you so much for giving me that couple of minutes. You can certainly reach me, contact me, Tom Schaefer, Elizabeth Skibby, Deb Meehan, Shelley Tench, any of us. We'd love to talk with you, and we'd love to speak with any prospects that you are aware of. Okay, so do you want me to move on into introducing Janice? All right, so I think I'm going to be presenting Janice, because I think most of you know her. So don't need to do a full out introduction, which I'm going to do. I'm going to read her some information from her bio, but I think most people on the call know who she is. But as Carnella said, Janice Cutler is our professional development chair for this year. Last year she was the programs chair, but this year she's professional development chair. Very active, very just prolific within NAWBO Greater Raleigh, well known, certainly is an ambassador for this organization. But from her bio, it reads, after several years in the marketing and market research industry, she began her entrepreneurial career. Since 1996, she's owned and run 3 flower shops, building 2 of them from the ground up. In December 2017, she sold the last 2 and is currently serving as the marketing director for the stores and industry consultant for the new parent company. She has a BS in marketing and international business, received her floral design and shop management certification from Southeast Florida School of Design, studied horticulture at NC State. So volunteered in many, many, many different arenas. Certainly she has plenty of accolades and she's very well regarded, very well respected. And so I'm going to present to you all Janice Cutler.
Thank you, Carlitha. That was wonderful. Very nice, kind words. I appreciate it. Okay, so thank you all for being here today, and thank you to our panelists in advance. Our program today, as you all probably know, it is about our pandemic and how do we protect our businesses? What can we plan for? What can we do about what has already happened? We have 3 experts in the very important areas that we all would want to hear about as business owners. Our first panelist, Megan, she has introduced herself a little bit in our breakout room, but I will go ahead and read each of their bios, their shortened versions, and then we'll go right into the program. Megan is a CPA with a full-service accounting firm, Montesino, and I should have asked about the pronunciation ahead of time. Megan, okay, thank you. Serving individuals and owners of small and mid-sized businesses with their tax, QuickBooks, and accounting needs. The firm is known for its expertise in resolving IRS tax problems, as well as providing monthly bookkeeping and QuickBooks services to small businesses in all industries, including services, retail, liquor, professional, construction, landscaping, manufacturing, distribution, and many others. So she has a wide range of skills to offer with her firm. Our next panelist, Karina Lemons, and as you also heard, she is volunteering on our board, and this is her 2nd year on the board. She is an attorney and received a Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of South Carolina, where she majored in political science with a minor in psychology in 1998. Attorney Lemons received her Juris Doctorate from North Carolina Central University of Law in 2001. She has been practicing law for more than 18 years in Durham, North Carolina. She has been a general practitioner for most of her career, but now focuses her practice in the areas of consumer and small business bankruptcy, employment law, and into entertainment law. She is also the host and creator of her own television talk show entitled It's Your Life, as well as an actress. She is a very busy lady, but we are very happy to have her on the board, and her firm is the Lemons Law Firm. Thomas Schaefer is the president and managing principal of Transitions Financial Strategies, LLC, a financial planning company. He has been helping business owners, individuals, and families prepare and or navigate life's transitions, some planned, most not, in the Triangle for 15 years. Thomas received his BA in Economics and Finance from Marist College and his Securities and Insurance education in North Carolina, and is licensed to do business in 8 states. He is also an Eagle Scout, held a 22-year executive career with IBM, and has owned a multi-store retail equipment and party rental business here in the Triangle for 4 years before entering the financial planning field. I did not know that about you, Tom. That's really interesting. Okay, so without further ado, I will go into the very first panel question. Megan is going to start us off. Oh, I actually forgot. There's a last minute note in the chat. If everyone can look real quick in the chat, just before we started, there was a note from one of our board members, also an accountant. She had mentioned that there's a new 1099 form and she wanted to make sure everybody knew about it. I put all of the information in the chat here. If this applies to anyone, please take a look at it some point during the program. And if you have any questions, you can certainly pose those to Megan at the end for in the Q&A portion. So I didn't want to forget to mention that. Okay, so the first question for Megan. Why is it important to have a CPA as a top trusted advisor?
Yes, great question. So my firm and so many other CPAs, everybody just thinks of taxes when they think of CPAs or accountants. And we do so much more than just your tax return at the end of the year. I have a list of things that we do, but some of the things that are most important to small business owners is that we can represent you in an audit. We can do your monthly or quarterly accounting work. We're strategic planning. We can help you plan for your business or your personal finances, and we can be that strategic partner in helping you use your accounting work to grow your business. I can help with financial planning in personal and business, estate planning. There's so much more to CPAs than just taxes. What a lot of people realize that we were one of the first people that they called when the pandemic hit, when they didn't know how they were going to continue their business when everything was shut down. Their CPAs were the first one. We were on speed dial for so many of our clients. And I don't know about other CPAs, but we were slammed with phone calls and questions. So for those people that we had that ongoing trusted relationship and we knew their business and the ins and outs of their business, we were able to help them so much easier and so much quicker than somebody that was brand new to calling a CPA or didn't have that relationship with a CPA. So it's important to have that ongoing relationship with your CPA, not just at the end of the year for your taxes.
Okay. Thank you, Megan. The next question, also for Megan, what is an operational budget and why is it important to have one?
So this is a fun question because my husband and I never had a budget for our personal finances. Like I had a rough idea of where our money went every month or, every quarter, but I never had a working budget here in my household. And this month was the first time that I really have been tracking where our money's coming from and where our money's going and how much is going to eating out or, like, I don't know, the stupid video games that my kids play. And so it's been interesting to track that personally. Now for my business, I am business partners with my father and he handles most of the ins and outs of the business. And I'm the first one to tell you that my business doesn't have an operating budget, but when my father retires in 5 months, that's one of the first things that I'm going to implement is a budget. When we have to make decisions, when somebody calls us about advertising, we don't have a budget that we're working on to say like, oh, we've already allotted all of our budgeting for marketing purposes. So for us, every time we have to make a decision for something like that, we have to start all over again. We have to look at what our P&L, what our cash flow is for the year. And we don't have that map, that guideline for the year. So I'm the first one to tell you that I'm telling all of my clients they need a budget and we don't have one. What is it? Do as I say, not as I do. That operating budget will help you manage your current expenses and it will help you project your future expenses. And for me, as I take over sole ownership of the business, that's where it's going to be most valuable to me is projecting those future expenses. An operating budget will help you build your financial reserves. Another important thing that I think a lot of small business owners learned with this pandemic, we didn't have the financial reserves that we need to weather the storm of this. And that's something that an operational budget will help you, even on a personal level, to build up your emergency fund or your savings account. For me, I think that operational budget helps you plan for the day-to-day operations, not necessarily long-term, but those day-to-day. If you have a team, if you have a staff, I don't know the makeup of your members and who's on the call here, but if you have departments, you can give them each their own budget. So they're not coming to you for every single financial decision or every single purchase. A budget will help you with that as well. I feel as though a budget will help you grow your business using your numbers, not just what you think are your numbers. Does anybody here have a budget for their business, or are you like me that don't? See? Okay, we got a few. Yeah, so if you don't have a budget and you need help with one, reach out to your CPA. Again, this is a reason why we should be that trusted advisor and not somebody that just does your taxes.
Okay. That's really helpful information. I definitely had that situation myself with that whole advertising conversation, and I'm in marketing too. And it was difficult for me to keep up with an operational budget for our retail businesses. It was always a goal and we did do it, but I felt never finished for me. It really just felt like I was always catching up.
And you
with
can
that.
adjust that budget every month or every quarter based on what's happening in your business or what your projected income is. If something changes, you can absolutely, that budget is always changing with what's happening currently in your business.
So partially to that point, and my next question is, what would you specifically say regarding keeping your books up to date and the importance of that? You know, the nitty gritty stuff, the stuff that maybe people, you know, akin to balancing your checkbook, or maybe not doing that if you still have a checkbook, or your bank account, whatever, however you want to refer to it now. So how would you advise us and your clients on why that's important and what can happen if you don't?
Right. So one thing, if you can take away from anything that I say, is the importance of keeping your bookkeeping and your finances and your business up to date. So many, I know a lot of my clients, they update their QuickBooks at the end of the year. They drop in all of their bank statements for 12 months at one time, or they don't even maintain their QuickBooks and they give me their bank statements in February. And again, that's just, they don't see the value of using their numbers to grow their business. It's just their numbers are to do a tax return at the end of the year. If you don't know what your income to date is, or your payroll to date, or your payroll compared to last year, you could end up in trouble. And this is one of the pandemic is definitely, that's one thing a lot of people have learned. We were fortunate kind of that the pandemic hit early in the year. So for those people that don't update and don't keep up to date on their bookkeeping, if they needed to know what their profit was those first 3 months, they only had 3 months to enter into the year. Now those people are realizing the importance of staying up to date. With this second round of PPP, if you have to show that your income is down 20% for any quarter, and you're one of those people that give your CPA your bank statements and records at the end of the year, you have no idea what your income was for any of those quarters to be able to compare it. And now somebody has to scramble to get all that work done, and that person's me. But if I'm doing that for a dozen clients, I can't do it fast enough to get you the numbers to be able to apply for a new round of PPP or apply for the EIDL loan or something like that. So to really, for these purposes in the midst of a pandemic, that is one reason why your bookkeeping should be up to date. But if you're making decisions to run and operate and grow your business, you need to know what your current numbers are. And if you're not keeping your bookkeeping up to date, you're making decisions with numbers that might not be accurate. So being up to date on that bookkeeping, and I understand it's not fun, it's not exciting. You'd rather be in your business and grow your business than working on your business. But if that's not something that you want to do, find somebody who can do it for you.
Thank you. You sounded all of this advice. I went through all of it, almost all of it myself. So
nobody wants to hear it. I get it. Accounting isn't exciting. It's not flashy, but it needs to be done. And if it's done the right way, it will only help you grow your business.
Yeah, I for one, and then we'll move on to the next, just in case this applies to anyone here or anyone you know, the biggest thing I would say after having sold my businesses is my husband always did my books for all the years I owned businesses. And, you know, he wanted to do it and insisted on doing it. And for many years, I wanted to hire somebody. And for lots of different reasons, he didn't. And so we decided to move forward in that direction. But looking back, it really, I should have hired somebody. And then I think he thinks that too, because the time, you can't treat that part like a hobby or a second job, a part-time job, because it's not. And I know you think you're saving money, but you can't afford not to. And I know that's a cliche, but that is, you know, the biggest thing that I learned in general after all those years. And it was at the very end that I hired somebody, but I wish I had done it in the beginning. Because
sometimes it becomes less of a priority when you're trying to do it yourself, because you have to kind of juggle what else needs to be done. I feel the same way with, say, for example, social media marketing. If I have to do work for a client or work on my social media, it's always going to be work for the client. So it's kind of tough when you have to prioritize if you're trying to do everything. It's tough. There's something else that's always going to be more important.
Yes, definitely. So we were going to do a quick poll. For some reason, there's a technical difficulty with our online poll. We were going to do an anonymous poll, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. We really wanted to talk a little bit about PPP as we advertise, but we definitely wanted to be sensitive to what the group needs. So if anyone feels comfortable or can raise their hand or put in the chat if they want to hear about PPP loan information, there is going to be a second round, and our couple of experts here know a good bit about it. And also, if you've already received a PP loan or in the forgiveness decision-making stage, want to hear about that, these folks know a lot about it as well. So I'm seeing some nodding heads, Wendy. Okay, so we'll just move forward. I just wanted to make sure that we were doing what the audience needed today. So Megan, since you're already on stage, what can you tell us about where we've been, if there's anybody who doesn't know what to do about the forgiveness stage, received a PPP loan, maybe briefly talk about that, since I'm not sure if anyone is in that stage right now, and then you can move forward to the second round and what you know about that.
Right. So the one thing that I think any professional on here, I know Elizabeth's a CPA as well, is that it's been so frustrating. Even just now, right as we started, I had a client text me and say that he's applied for the second round and they're holding up his application because they're asking for, I think he said like the form 3508 for the forgiveness. I said, that's the forgiveness application. You did that. And one thing that we've learned is that you need to just do what your bank is asking. We can say the SBA is saying it's not required. I think if you got that first round, if you can say that you don't need to show, if you're under the threshold, you don't have to show the payroll records. But the bottom line is, if your bank is asking for it, we need to play by the bank's rules and give them what they want. Even though we've had that with every bank in this area. Well, we don't need to show payroll records, and they tell us, well, we want them. And the bottom line is, if you want the forgiveness, we just need to do what the bank is asking, even if the SBA is saying they don't need it. The second round, I think most of what you guys know is that you do need to show a 25% decrease in one quarter to the previous quarter of 2019. Again, this is where it's important to have your QuickBooks up to date so you can pull those numbers right away and easily. The second round is very similar to the first round, other than you do have to show a little bit more, and they're saying that they are going to ask for more documents to show that you are entitled to that second round. Depending on what industry you're in, if you're in like the food service industry, it's 3.5 times your average monthly payroll. Everybody else, it's 2.5 times. If you do have more specific questions to your own scenario and you don't have that relationship with your CPA, or you just want to bounce some ideas, I'm definitely open to a phone conversation. I can put my email and my phone number in the chat. And if I can help you guys in any way, I love NALBO. NALBO's done great for me, so I will always help out one of my NALBO sisters. Or bros, right? We got some NAL bros.
Thank you, Megan. Definitely put your information in the chat at this point, and folks, go ahead and copy it and jot down your questions. If you haven't already, definitely from here onward, and then we'll have the Q&A at the end for everyone. What I was going to jump to next was one of my questions that I had for Karina, and she was going to address important things to be prepared for, or what if you're considering PPP financing from a legal standpoint. So Karina, if you could address that for us.
Yeah, so Congress was pretty busy in December, and the National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorneys went to Congress and lobbied for some changes to be made, or some things to be inserted in this new law, or the amended coronavirus relief bill, just because there were some things that were unclear to the courts about loan forgiveness, taxable income, all of those types of things. So it is important to know that You know, normally if you were to get a loan forgiven or you get a discount on a loan, you would receive a 1099 at the end of the year for that amount. Well, they made it clear that the PPP loan forgiveness amount is not taxable income. So that's been made very clear this time around. So if you've received your forgiveness letter, know that they will not be sending you, adding that as income for this year or whatever year you got your forgiveness letter. They've also expanded the eligible expenses. So before it was basically mostly wages and then some rent and some other things. But there was like a percentage variation. Most of it, like I said, had to be wages in order for it to be forgiven. So now they've expanded that. It could be operations expenses, technology, software, accounting, covered worker expenditures. And so there's some additional things that they've listed in terms of what could be considered an expense that is forgiven under this second round of, not really, I want to say second round of PPP, but the PPP2 loans. Because they did have, what was it, Megan? They had 2 rounds last year because they ran out of money. So this is actually PPP2. So if you received a PPP loan, you can be eligible for a PPP2 loan, a second PPP loan, if you meet certain requirements. And, you know, it has to be, you can't, and then, well, I would say I would kind of leave Megan if you wanted to kind of highlight some of the requirements of that. I don't want to get into the details of that. But some of the other changes are that these loans are capped out at $2 million. So if y'all remember last year, there were some pretty big companies that were considered small businesses that received rather large PPP loans. And they received such criticism that some of those companies ended up paying those funds back. Now the loans are capped off at $2 million per loan, not $2 million for everyone, but total, but $2 million per loan. So they're really trying to focus on the small businesses. If you noticed this year when you heard that the PPP2 loans were out, but your bank's portal wasn't open yet, it's because they were trying to focus on those small businesses, those smaller banks whose clients could not get access to PPP funds. So they rolled it out and opened up the portal for those smaller banks. They've now opened it up for the larger banks. So now if you have not applied and you need those funds, then you should apply. There are certain types of businesses that are not eligible for the PPP loan. MLMs and strip clubs are some of those types of businesses. Don't know why, they just aren't. And for the second PPP loan, you have to have fewer than 300 employees, okay? 300 employees or fewer. And you have to have used or will use all of the funds from the first PPP loan. There's quite a few different provisions in this, but I just wanted to kind of highlight some of those, particularly regarding whether or not those it would be considered income. From the perspective of a bankruptcy attorney, I want to know if my client who is struggling and had to get a loan or a grant to be able to pay their client's wages, whether or not that grant would be looked at as taxable income. And so it is not going to be considered taxable income, which is a great thing. So if you have a client or somebody who is still struggling despite all of the assistance that they've received, and they're considering filing bankruptcy, then you should advise them or encourage them to consult with a bankruptcy attorney to determine their eligibility, because they may have not been eligible for it last year, but they may be eligible for it this year. I'm sorry, I hope I didn't take too long to answer your question. I hope I answered it, Janice.
Oh no, I think it's great. And folks, do write down if you have questions during the Q&A. But will say that Penny has one follow-up question while it's fresh in everybody's mind that I think I might have her pose back to Megan real quick. And if it is more involved, then maybe they'll have to have a conversation offline. But Penny, if you wouldn't mind just posing your question for clarification that you had for Megan at this point.
Sure. Thank you. So Megan, I don't know how to account for the inflow of money from the first PPP loan. What is that money? Because it certainly, that money helped me stop showing a certain amount of loss, that's for sure, but I don't know how to account for it.
Right, absolutely. So was it forgiven in 2020 or is it still not forgiven?
Okay, so here's a funny thing. I went to the bank and tried to apply for forgiveness, and they sent me a note that said, well, you can go ahead and apply for forgiveness. Here's our portal, but let us go ahead and warn you that this can require a lot of paperwork, and if you'll wait to apply for forgiveness later, it's a lot easier and it could be a lot less paperwork. So I didn't do the forgiveness because of their warning.
Definitely. Okay, so for 2020 on the books, it's just going to be listed as a loan payable. So it'll be a liability still, even though at some point it will be forgiven. So it's just going to be listed as a liability. And like Karina has already said, it's not considered income. So you're fine there.
Okay, you answered my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad we were able to take care of that. But please, everyone, just jot down your questions for the end. We're not done asking questions for sure. So we are gonna jump back to Karina. And Karina, I'm gonna invite you in case there's anything else you wanted to add, not that you didn't say awesome stuff, but if there's anything you wanted to add on what you just were talking about, please feel free to do that. And if you wanted to clarify anything or anything at all about PPP, please do so. My next question, however, is about bankruptcy, something that it's very hard to talk about, very hard to think about. Most of us think about it as a last resort in any situation. In the difficult times we're in, have you seen an uptick in clients needing counsel in this area? And my follow-up question on that, which is part of that, is can bankruptcy actually be a viable option in saving a business that is having financial difficulty?
Yeah, so we haven't quite seen an uptick yet in bankruptcy filings. However, there are quite a few laws that will sunset in March of this year. So we're anticipating that as the mortgage companies stop working with people who fell behind during the pandemic, then to save their home, they may need to file bankruptcy. For businesses, so it just depends. If you're a solopreneur, if you are a sole proprietor, then you can very well file a Chapter 13, fix things up, stay in business, and kind of reorganize that way. However, if you are a large business or high net worth individual, if your debt exceeds the debt ceiling that's allowed in a Chapter 13, then you would file a Chapter 11. I don't do Chapter 11 bankruptcies, but you're familiar with, the large companies, Kmart, that have filed. There have been quite a few companies that have filed. I think, Toys R Us filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. You normally hear about it in the news. Some of the media companies filed bankruptcy. Chapter 11 is a different ball game. There's a lot that you can do. You can sell off businesses under a Chapter 11. You can, some businesses actually do like a buy-sell agreement that way through the protection of the bankruptcy court. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is the bankruptcy that most people think about when they think of bankruptcy. So Chapter 7 is where you're going in there, you're discharging all of your debt, most of your debt, and you don't really have anything to pay back, then a Chapter 7, most people can keep their house and their car if they're current. But if they fall behind on those things, then a 13 might be more appropriate. And a Chapter 13 allows you to repay those debts, reorganize it all, anywhere from 3 to 5 years. That's important because if anybody's ever been behind in their mortgage, or you know someone who has, when you get behind on your mortgage company wants you to pay all of those arrears in a lump sum. And then you accrue all of these fees and so forth. In a Chapter 13, you're able to spread out those arrears over the life of the plan. And like I said, the bankruptcy plan is 3 to 5 years. Now in December, Congress proposed a new bill that would change the bankruptcy code completely. We haven't had a change, overhaul since 2004. And what they want to do is essentially make it one bankruptcy instead of having the separate Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. So it's going to be a completely different look. If they ever get around to it, as we know, they have to confirm our new president's cabinet. They've got the impeachment trials. They've got the pandemic that we're still in. So I don't know if they're going to when they'll get around to that particular bill, but that's just something to be aware of. If you are a business, one of the hardest things, and this is kind of circling back to what Megan was talking about, is not getting my clients to have, most of them don't have a budget, but that's not the real issue. I think the key thing that Megan discussed was the P&Ls. If you have a profit and loss statement, then you know how much came in and how much is going out. And the majority of my business clients that come to me have no P&L statements. They don't keep up with it in QuickBooks. They don't hire a bookkeeper. They absolutely do not know. They take a bucket or a box of receipts to their CPA, right? She's like, yep. At the end of the year, CPA, bookkeepers gotta go through all of that stuff. And it makes it difficult for me as a bankruptcy attorney to figure out just how much their income is, because that has to be disclosed to the bankruptcy court. And if they produce that this was their profit and loss and this is what they made, and then they have to show their actual bank statements and it doesn't add up, that's a problem. And so I know see Tom shaking his head. It's like, yeah, these people is a mess when they come to me. But, I'll let Tom talk a little bit more about, the financial planning aspect of it. But the reality of it is as a business owner, you have to keep up with this stuff. And it's easier if you do it from day one, because who knows if you may have to file bankruptcy. That's not the goal. You're in business to make money, but most businesses fail. Most businesses fail. So you don't know if you're going to be in that category, or if you're going to have longevity like Megan and her business, or Tom and his business, or me or Janice, where you're profitable and can sell your business. But if you don't keep up with that stuff, how do you know if you're profitable? So that's bankruptcy and business owners and individuals as well.
That was so good, Karina. Oh my gosh. I think you answered the other question I was going to ask you, but just in case there was anything else, you dovetailed perfectly into what can businesses do to protect themselves from this, and not have to come see you for that. But, the big nuts sound like keep your books in order, know your P&L statement, everything Megan said, pretty much everything Megan said, do that.
Absolutely.
And, is there anything else you can think to say if somebody were to come and ask you, I want to avoid this, but if it does happen, are there any things that they can be thinking about? Like if you want a bankruptcy, unfortunately for later to be successful or do the best thing for you, is there anything that you should or shouldn't be doing early on that's going to make that a mess?
Absolutely. Recently, I have had some clients who, as sole proprietors, have not separated out their business assets from their personal assets. And if you want to file a Chapter 7 as an individual and all of your assets for the business are under you as an individual, and you don't really have any money, but you have assets, you file a Chapter 7, the trustee can take those assets and sell them off to pay off your creditors. That's the purpose of a Chapter 7, is to liquidate your assets to pay your creditors. Now, if you don't have any assets, or your assets are encumbered by some security interest or a mortgage or a loan, you know, you have a secured property like a car or a home, and you have a loan on it, then you're fine. You can still file that Chapter 7, and you know, but the amount of equity that you have is going to limit you. If you have everything as yours in the business, then when you're filing bankruptcy, the business doesn't really exist on its own. So you're filing it as an individual, and you could very well lose all or some of your assets. So it's very important to keep them separate, and also to seek the advice of a financial advisor, financial planner that can help you to protect certain assets. In bankruptcy, you have exemptions. So you can actually keep quite a bit of your stuff if you file bankruptcy. And you need somebody that's savvy and smart in financial planning like Tom, who can advise you, okay, this is considered, this is protected, this is not taxable, this is protected, you know, protected asset from bankruptcy, or that, this, that, and the other. Those are some things you can do ahead of time to plan so that you don't completely lose everything. Bankruptcy is supposed to give you a fresh start. It's not supposed to be like Monopoly, where you run out of all your cash bills and then you claim bankruptcy. That's not what bankruptcy is, and it's not really what it's designed to do. It's designed to give you a fresh start, not completely wipe you out.
Thank you, Karina. That was really, really helpful information, and it's a perfect dovetail into Tom's questions. Is there anything that you need to add about PPP at this point? I know it's jumping back, but just in case. We good, Karina, with?
No, yeah, if people have specific questions towards the end, if I didn't cover it, I'll be happy to answer what I can.
Okay, and go ahead and put your information in the chat, however you'd like people to contact you, if they need to. And without further ado, we are going to go into Tom's portion. Tom, thank you for patiently waiting and listening with us. The first question I have for you: during this tough time we are in, how are you working with clients whose finances are low or are looking for alternative financing? Tom, you're on mute.
Huge question. So how do I follow these two? You know, the cool thing is it's all integrated. So, you know, I think right now I'm dealing with, as a planner, you touch on the tax issues, you touch on investment issues, you touch on budgeting and legal and et cetera. So I end up being like a call director to other advisors at the end of the day. I kind of run into, and if I categorize the three types of people now, are basically, there's the devastated that are just hanging on, a lot of my retail clients, restaurants, et cetera. There's the recovered kind of and growing, clawing it back type of thing, didn't, you know, hung on. And then there's the booming, that this was a boom to them. It wasn't, it didn't hurt them, right? And so obviously different conversations. You know, I named my company Transitions Financial Strategies because our life is one transition after another. You're either preparing for one, you're in one, or you're recovering for one. So right now we're working with people that were in one or recovering one to that degree. You know, as I looked for, you know, we get down to, you know, most of the businesses that I confer with are all what you'd classify as, you know, small businesses, largely S corps. So everything that happens to them is a pass through to their own personal world. Most of my planning ends up ultimately being at their level, right down at their family's level, at their individual level, et cetera. So, you know, it's simplistic. If we're at the people that are devastated and hanging on, we're talking about budgeting. Back to Megan's point, whether it's an operational budget that didn't exist, and maybe for the clients that are clawing it back, maybe we got to do that. Even for the clients that are booming, it's like, okay, maybe we still need to have an operational budget just in case this boom ends, right? But a lot of times it's, you know, giving them ideas on survival, on personal budgeting, and the value of using an advisor like any one of us on this whole call is that we're outside looking in. We're not inside the problem trying to look out, and we just get to see things. We are professionally invested in the outcome, but not personally. So sometimes it enables us to ask a question, to provide an observation that wasn't ever seen before. And, you know, we all have done that when it's like somebody says something to us and we go, duh, but we didn't think of it, we couldn't see it. You know, if you have captured this thing before, you had good credit when you went into this, and things have been, you haven't lost your credit, you've got opportunities. I'm not saying that's always the best thing, but sometimes it's the only thing. It depends on where you are. Maybe you can flip things over to 0% interest type credit card for just to buy yourself another 6 months or a year with payment, without any payments. You know, obviously use of family funds. There's creative ways to do paybacks. Some they can become, if they had to, they could become some part of an investment in the business for the future, etc. So we'll explore those different things. Cash values of life insurance is something I've often overlooked. You know, easy access of funds that can be utilized, that have no questions, no ties. It doesn't count as a loan. It's just something that is there. Kind of a side note, in 1929, J.C. actually kept J.C. alive by draining the cash values of his life insurance to make payroll. It was kind of an interesting thing. And then often last but maybe not least is utilization of retirement accounts and IRAs, and maybe how we can structure it to be some of the withdrawal can be hardship, and maybe avoid some penalties, and even bankruptcy may be an option, given the point that they're on. So I know it's a variety of things, just depending on where the person is in this transition.
Okay, that was really helpful, Tom. Thank you for recapping all that. So with that being said, if assuming everyone has a financial planner, or maybe they're thinking about it, and if they're thinking about it, hopefully after this talk, they find one if they don't have one, or at least one of the three experts that are on this panel. What would you say the top three things would be to ask your financial planner, whether they are brand new to you or you have an existing financial planner and they have not reached out to you to discuss? What are the top three things?
Well, sometimes some of these things that I probably are not things they may think of, but the conversations would be things like, tell me about what is the structure of an exit plan or of a succession plan. Maybe I've heard about that. Maybe I should be thinking about that. Can you help me with putting that together? And of course, that's one of the things I do. I do a lot of that, but you know, I usually only go so far before I'm going down. I'm saying, okay, we're far enough now. We need to talk to your CPA. We need to talk to your attorney, because, you know, we can get it in place. So exit planning, have the conversation. They should be having a conversation with you about your exit planning, even just to decide what it would look like, to then consider whether there's any documentation and how they impact to the family. Because if you were fortunate enough to, you know, not have a disaster like that happen, then, you know, this I know for a lot of my clients that I've had these conversations before, and they were like, yeah, we need to do that. I'm getting some calls that say, maybe we should talk more about that. All right. And unfortunately, I've got a couple stories of things that, it's too late. The other thing is, how can I better diversify my investments for liquidity when I need it? Maybe it's more operational budget liquidity, and liquidity meaning easy access to the funds. Unfortunately, in today's environment for the last 10 years, easy access to funds means they're not usually earning anything. But in the reality is the cost of obtaining funds that are earning something in an emergency becomes so phenomenal that doesn't really matter, right? So for liquid diversification also, as Karina talked about, is how to protect assets differently. There's different types of financial tools that allow you to make investments that can be protected. Some can be protected from creditors and predators. Some are easier to access, but than others, and without penalties. Some people would have been happy to have certain types of insurances in place, things like business interruption insurance. While it's not sexy, it's not a thing anybody wants to talk about. It can help tide people through in situations like this. The other types of things that are protecting the individuals from the disability of something happening where they get there, and then exploring technology. And what can I do with technology? Maybe it's time to get more of your business paperless so that you don't have to operate from the brick and mortar, and that gives you a little bit more flexibility for changes in business. I know I'm doing that. I know that's caused me to say, okay, I need to really move a lot faster down the paperless office environment.
Thank you, Tom. That was really helpful for people in either stage, whether they have a financial planner now and they haven't had these conversations, or they're going to look for one now. You have a 3P process, as you call it, for working with your clients. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm one of the things that I'm good at is taking complex things and trying to make them simple. And sometimes people don't do financial planning because they think it's this all big complex thing. And the reality is, or it's not for them, or in worst case, nothing's ever going to happen to me, so I don't have to do any financial planning. But the reality is, I use 3 Ps. Planning all boils down to plan for what you know is going to happen. We only know one thing is going to happen. We are going to pass away. We just don't know when, so we can plan for if it happens at an inconvenient time, period. The second thing is, you want to prepare for those things that you hope don't happen. We just want to be prepared for the disabilities, for the untimely death, for the loss of the largest client or the series of clients, the semi-pandemic, the loss of a business partner, those kinds of things. We just want to be prepared. We hope they don't happen, but we don't need to leave it open to having them devastate us. And the third thing is P is position. Still position yourself to be able to do what you hope happens. So you still have to save in the retirements. You're still looking for either retirement or the next business opportunity. Just like when you're paying off credit, you never pay off credit at the complete absence of saving. It's always a balance between your needs, your means, and your desires.
So, Tom, thank you for that. Is there anything, I know it's switching gears a little bit, but I didn't want to neglect this. Is there anything that you would want to add to what the other ladies talked about with the PPP from your standpoint? Have you had any clients where you've had to have any conversations with them about that, or refer them to somebody because they came to you, or anything you'd like to add about that?
Well, there's a couple things that are really not, words of wisdom. I will say that what Karina and Megan talked about were really very good. I had clients that came to me that that couldn't qualify, and some of the reason they couldn't qualify is they couldn't quantify their numbers, and in time enough. And by the time they kind of put it together, then it ran out. But I was able to get them to that other loan. I want to say a huge congratulations to to NABO. The information that we put out as an organization in the front end to the SBA, et cetera, for assistance was some of the best out there in the early part. And so I was using that a lot to get my clients into the vein of help. I was smart enough to realize I knew enough to get dangerous, and then I need to get them to some, to do the right forms in the right banks, et cetera. So, and then I don't really, it's just, those are the three, that's really all I have to say. They've covered it pretty well. Round two. The question I do have for either one of them, though, is if I have a PPP loan from round one, do the terms and conditions, expanded uses of the funds for round two apply?
It's my understanding that if you apply for forgiveness after the effective date, then you may still be eligible, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
That will be something that I'd have to look into and get back with you, because I think I remember hearing something about that, but I can't recall that specific nuance of it. So
Right.
I'd have to look into it and let you know.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that might have been what Sarah was referring to, is that they were, not Sarah, was it Penny was referring to, is that they suggested that she wait to apply for the forgiveness so she could get the full benefits. That might be why they said that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Megan or Karina, is there anything you would like to add, ask another panelist before we head into the Q&A with the group?
I just want to comment on something that Tom said about the exit plan and the succession planning. Don't wait until it's too late. Like, don't wait until you're ready to move into that time of your career and your business and your life. Like, have it in place well before that, especially if you have a partner or you have those buyout terms, that agreement, that plan in place before you even start to talk about when that's going to happen. It's just, it takes some of the emotion out of it. I feel as though being in that situation now with my father, and granted it's family, so there's even more emotion in it. But if that succession plan and that exit plan is already in place, once that partner decides to retire, it's already done. There's no emotion in it then at that point. There still is, but not in the actual decisions and the structure of that plan. So don't wait until it's time to do it.
Yeah, thank you, Megan, for saying that. We've heard that a few times with speakers we've had for NAVO over the years, business brokers or folks who help people. They say, if you, and I've heard other NAVO members say it too, when you buy your business and you start hiring, your successor, have your exit plan in your mind then. You're not going to be in business forever. And besides planning for all the stuff that might derail you or cause you to have to come up with that decision, a family illness or whatever it might be, think about it when you're buying it. Think about building it so you can sell it, or figuring out that exit plan at that point, not when you're tired. Yeah, right. It's really important.
I'm in the process of starting a new business with two other NAVO people, and we joked around that we don't want a divorce at some point in the future in our business, but the reality is that sometimes that division of a business is worse than the dissolution of a marriage. Sometimes it can be worse from what I hear from clients and associates, that is worse than.
Well, right, because the thing Right. The thing that a documented or defined exit plan is, it's not about necessarily all about disaster. Sometimes it's just it defines, how does somebody want to leave?
Yeah.
How do they get to leave? What are the terms? You know, and it makes transition, not disaster transition, you know, a whole lot easier.
Right. And it actually helps you with your goals of, will my business be sellable? You know, it's figure that out with your financial people, all of your advisors. How do you get it to the point? Just because you have a business doesn't mean somebody else is going to want to buy it. You got to have that goal in mind. Your books need to look a certain way. You know, you have to have that realistic approach toward, how am I going to sell it if I'm going to sell it? And build it up to that point so it's sellable. And so you'll be very disappointed if you don't, because you get there and you'll be like, oh, my business is worth a lot. Or so everybody will want it. You know, you have to be thinking about that when you're in it way early. So Karina, did you have anything you needed to add before we move into?
Yeah, just like, you know, as Megan said, if you're going into business with someone, or you've hired your successor and they're going to become a partner and then eventually the sole owner, absolutely you want to document that in writing, because everything is all great and fine and dandy, you know, and lovely when you first enter into this exciting business relationship, but make sure that you document it in writing, because over time, you may find that it's not as good of a fit as you thought, or your goals and interests may change.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, Sarah. You do need a lawyer as part of your team. A lawyer, an accountant, and a financial advisor.
That's right. We're all here.
And a business coach.
Just join NAWBO, stay in NAWBO, and you'll have everything that you need.
And you'll get hooked up with all the resources you need.
That's right.
And I do want to say that, you know, as it was mentioned earlier, my law firm is a corporate partner. And one of the things that we've offered to NAWBO members as part of that partnership is that NAWBO members are entitled to one 30-minute free consultation with our office. And it doesn't have to be a business law issue. It can be about contracts. It can be a variety of things. So if you are interested, I receive a membership list from AMG, and feel free to reach out to my office. I put my information there in the chat. At the end of this session, if you want to click on that word file right there in the chat and download the chat so that you can have everybody's contact information that was included. But a lot of people don't know that. It's not something that we've advertised very much. We initially wanted to utilize that time for anything that we needed for the board and, you know, for NAWBO Greater Raleigh, but because everything's been virtual, we haven't needed as much. Our needs have changed. So I definitely want you to know that, you know, hiring a lawyer, consulting with a lawyer, a lot of people don't do it because of the cost. I know that I do charge, you know, it's not cheap to have a consultation with me. So please take advantage of that free 30-minute consultation with me, because I absolutely want to make sure that I'm, you know, doing my part in terms of my corporate partnership. So take advantage of that.
Thank you, Karina, for that reminder. I did forget that today, so I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you. Well, we are going to move into the Q&A. I have one question that somebody put in the chat, and if you have any questions, that anyone else has any questions, please either put it in there and I will ask it for you, or you can raise your hand and ask it on your own. This question that someone put in here is from Jane, and it's for Megan. And her question is, does QuickBooks have a budgeting feature that allows changes to the budgeted amounts on a monthly basis? Some months we spend a lot on supplies and some months none. If no, do you suggest another way to track operating budget?
It depends on what version of QuickBooks you're using, if they have that budgeting. I have a client who uses online QuickBooks, and he has like the highest version. I forget what the tier is, but it's the highest paid version, and he does have a budgeting. option, and you can manipulate the numbers. It pulls the historical numbers, and then you can manipulate the numbers in all of the categories. The QuickBooks version that I use for online does not have a budgeting option. And again, same thing on the desktop version. You can do budgeting and manipulate those numbers. If that's not an option in your QuickBooks and you don't want to upgrade, you can absolutely, I know for me personally, I have a Google Sheets that I'm trying to embrace the Google Drive for my personal and professional life. So I do have that Google Sheets budget that I have different tabs, and then it pulls over into the budget. I can definitely share, if you want to take a look at what I'm using for the Google, I can share that template with you, Jane, if you want to pop your email address into the chat. You can do a similar thing with Excel as well. The benefit for me of the Google is I can access it on any computer. It doesn't have to be saved on my cloud. But I can share that template if you don't have that function in QuickBooks. And if you want to see, you're not sure where to look, again, shoot me an email and I can have a quick conversation and see if you can do the budgeting in QuickBooks.
So personally, there's a program called YNAB that I use that's all more budgeting focused than financial focused, and I absolutely love it. I've actually morphed it into using it for our business, but now it doesn't do the same reporting and the P&L statements. So I'm thinking about switching to QuickBooks for the business, but I don't want to lose that budgeting piece. And that had been the one thing that had really kind of kept me from switching to QuickBooks. And so I may end up having to keep double books to be able to do that. I haven't decided. So yeah, I was curious what was there.
To talk through it, I'm absolutely, we can schedule a phone call and I can see if QuickBooks would work for you.
Okay. And then just for the person Penny, I guess, with the PPP loan, our banker told us in the springtime after we got our first loan not to fill in the paperwork yet. But then in October, November, he sent us more paperwork and said, now do it. Now our loan was not big, it was under 50,000. I did the forgiveness paperwork in about 20 minutes. It was really easy. So I don't know if maybe there was a time frame issue for you that maybe now you might want to circle back to your bank or not. I just wanted to throw that out there, that was my experience with it.
There's a lot of strategy discussion regarding about when to apply for the PPP forgiveness based on whether we could deduct those expenses or not. So there was a lot of strategy about if we couldn't deduct those payroll expenses that we used or any expenses that we used to make the PPP forgiven. There was a lot of discussion about would it benefit you to apply in 2020 and not take those expenses, or 2021. So I think that's why a lot of people were saying you should wait to apply for the forgiveness. Again, that's the benefit of talking to a professional, that they can help you make those decisions.
The paperwork is very easy. I mean, I had it done. I was going to submit it when they said don't. I think I'll go ahead and do it now. It seems like it might make it cleaner when I apply for the second run. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the question, and Penny too. We have another question in the chat. I'm going to pose it to Megan, but Karina and Tom might have some thoughts too. But Megan, I don't know if you can see it. I'll read it for everyone. Not sure whether this is more for Megan or Tom. I have an IEDL loan. I'm considering applying for a PPP and then asking forgiveness for it as a means of reducing the total of the loan, which the SBA would do automatically if I understand the IEDL guidelines correctly. Do you think this is a viable strategy?
I'm not familiar with it reducing the total of the EIDL loan. Are you, Tom?
No, I
haven't heard this.
I don't think you'd get.
I know that with the EIDL loan, you would get an automatic grant, automatic amount that they would deposit into your account in addition to the EIDL that you apply for. It's my understanding that that initial portion that they deposit as the grant was forgiven, and that the actual loan amount was the amount that you had to pay back. And I know this because I had an EIDL loan as well.
Okay.
I haven't heard that the PPP affects that.
Okay. That's helpful to know. The way
With the forgiveness, they were supposed, so that grant amount was supposed to be subtracted from the PPP forgiveness. Under the first round, under the first PPP loans. Under the second, from what I understand, that grant amount, that the emergency funds that they place in your account immediately are not subtracted from your application for the new PPP, for the PPP2 loan.
Okay.
That's my understanding of the way it works.
Yeah, that's correct. So I had a PPP loan. Mine's already been forgiven, and I got the EDL, what is it? EDL, the grant. And so when they sent me my letter for forgiveness, it said we forgave this amount minus the grant that I got. So that part I have to pay back, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but with the second, with the PPP2 loan, it's my understanding that you don't have to pay that back, the emergency EIDL under this PPP2 loan. But if you've already received your forgiveness letter, then it's too late. And I believe that may be what Penny may have been, why the bank encouraged her to wait. Penny's shaking her head.
Okay.
So
Wendy,
based on what the AICPA is saying, if you got funding from the first PPP loan and you've already applied for forgiveness and your PPP minus the EIDL grant has been forgiven, with the newest round of PPP funding, that EIDL grant portion is supposed to be paid back to you. It's just a question of when, and your financial institution will have to make that refund.
I didn't get an EIDL grant. I got the loan, but I didn't get a grant. So,
right.
Okay.
Does that answer your question sufficiently,
Yes.
Wendy? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Let's see, I have so there's another question in the chat. My CPA and banker both think the EIDL will eventually be forgiven. Any thoughts?
Depends on what Congress does. That's up to Congress.
I don't think the EIDL loans will be forgiven, especially because they're up to 150,000. I can't imagine the SBA that they'll be forgiven, but we don't know. As you know that everything has changed so many times in the last 10 months since they first rolled out the first round of PPP. Anything could happen, I guess. It would be nice. I won't lie. It would be really nice if it was all forgiven, but I don't have any input on that.
Even if they're not, the EIDL, they deferred the payments, at least on mine, till July. So I have to start paying on mine till July, and the payments are extremely low.
Yeah.
The interest rates are low. So if you need to, if you need to throw a life raft to your business, don't hesitate to apply for it. You know, a business coach always says that if you're eligible for money, apply for it, get it now, because when you really need it, you won't qualify. Now, the coronavirus relief bills have made that different, you know, because that's, you know, the EIDL and the PPP loans. But if you don't need it, you can always pay it back. You can always give it back.
That's really good advice, Karina. Thank you for mentioning that. There's another question in the chat. I have a question about the EIDL 10K that was supposed to be forgiven. Penny, did you want to elaborate on that, or do we need to? Is it for Megan?
So I was turned down for the EIDL, but I was given $10,000 that they said, well, just be happy you got that. Really, the letter sounded like that, because this is forgiven. Is that still forgiven?
That's the grant.
That's the grant, the emergency.
That's the grant. But I've just heard you talking about that was subtracted from the PPP. Is that, what did I just hear you say?
But that's different. So the EIDL grant is a grant. In terms of if you also have a PPP loan, that EIDL grant is subtracted from the forgiveness amount if you also have a PPP loan.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Penny, if you want to like have a phone call about specific details, I would be more than happy. No, I know you don't always want to share everything, all the specifics. I'll be more than happy to see if I can help you with anything.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Does anybody have anything to add that would help the group? I think we're done with questions, but certainly if you have any, please ask them. But anything to add that would help everyone here with what we're talking about? Sarah?
I'll just share. I had put this in the chat a little bit ago. This is more kind of on the personal side, but one way to keep your assets invested is to borrow against them. So the same way you have a home equity line of credit on your home where you borrow against your home as collateral, you could also do that for taxable assets. Now, it can't be done for retirement assets, but certainly can be done for taxable assets. So we found really creative ways working with multi-generational families to maybe help the younger kids who are entrepreneurs or starting off or trying to buy a house or get married or whatever they're doing, maybe borrow against grandma or grandpa or mom and dad. In different cases, maybe the kids pay the interest. In different cases, maybe the parents eat the interest as a gift. But again, it keeps everything invested. And although the markets are volatile, they did really well last year. And so in a time when you're trying to figure out different sources, you know, obviously we talked about pulling equity from the home or refinancing to get your home expenses down, but there's just so many creative ways that you can kind of navigate these times. I know they're difficult and folks are certainly overwhelmed, especially as business owners, but lots of ways. So definitely brainstorm with professionals and get a full team.
I did have a quick question. I guess this would probably be for Megan. So when I got my forgiveness letter on it, it does say that the SBA can come back up to 5 years from the forgiven date. So I guess my question is like, can they unforgive it in that 5, or they could just ask for more documentation is why they're saying that?
That's exactly it. They have 5 years to ask for the documentation to show that you were entitled to that forgiveness. So if they come back and ask for that and you can't prove that, then they could turn that back into a loan that you have to pay back. And
Okay.
This is where the banks are trying to do their due diligence and asking for all of those documents before they approve the forgiveness. So I understand why the banks are doing what they're doing, even though the SBA says they don't have to. So that is one of the things. If you had to provide the documents to the bank, I would say that you're pretty safe, but make sure you're still keeping all of your records, which you should be anyway for tax purposes.
Yeah, I kept it all as a file. I just didn't know if like, I don't know, something crazy and we have a different president in 4 years and all of a sudden they're like, oh, just kidding. We're unforgiving everybody's. And I mean, you know, no one said Corona would happen. And
you owe us.
So I just tried to cover all my bases.
You owe Uncle Sam, all of you. You owe him. You owe him.
Yeah. If they question, if they audit their records and spot check a few, that kind of thing. It's so you're prepared to prove that you were able to get that forgiveness.
Okay, perfect.
Does anybody else have a question or want to share a relevant experience? No, it looks like we're good. This was great. All these questions were so great. You were all so prepared. So we are about to close our meeting. I did want to mention, first of all, thank you to our panelists. You were wonderful today and it was so helpful. And thank you so much for donating your time and energy to this. And thank you all for all the great questions and for your attention to our panelists. And you will all be getting a gift sent to you. So we will follow up with you for the pertinent details for giving your time. And at this point, I am going to turn it over to our president, Carnella, to help us close out the meeting.
Yes, so thank you, Megan, Karina, and Tom. Tom is our NABRO. We have 2 NABROs, so we have to mention that. And we're grateful for him. And he stays behind the scenes, but he does a lot. So thank you. We really appreciate you, Tom. Thank you, Janice, for moderating this and all the wonderful questions. This was really great. Can we give our panelists, they're going to get a gift from us, but can we give them a round of applause? Karina, your clapping for yourself. Y'all did great. And this was very informative. I know there were several that wanted to attend that had a conflict, so they'll catch it in a replay. But thank you very much. And we probably need to have like a follow-up, seem like in maybe 3 months or something, with things changing as much as they are. So don't hesitate to email us, me or Emily or somebody from the board if you have questions. Yeah, right before April 15th. That's true, Wendy. Yeah, saying, okay, when you're ready to file and what we need to do. So Emily, help me to keep this on the radar that maybe in March we need to have like, okay, y'all, you got to get ready to get this all done. So that'll be really good. So thank you. And we'll do it as a special session or something for that. So I want to wrap up with a couple of things. I got less than 5 minutes. So Janice, you want to tell them about the connections and conversations that you're doing? This will be a great time.
Okay. I think, Emily, did you have your hand up a second ago? No. Okay. Just to make sure that I'm not missing anybody. Okay. So we have a new program that some of you have already joined, and we're going to be doing it once a month, the second Wednesday of every month from 9 to 9:30, although we might go longer if the group continues to decide that they want to go longer. It is called Connections and Conversations, and it's from 9 to 9:30 a.m. on the second Wednesday of every month. Our next one is February 10th. And it's a time for networking, but also sharing, plugging in, letting us know what you need. It's run by the Professional Development Committee, which is my committee. And Wendy and Sarah, who are also on this call, are on my committee. And we plug you all into what you need with NAWBO, whether it be a community partner or a peer group or just another member that you need to meet or need something from. We basically are there to figure out what you need, and you tell us what you need. And we share, we connect, we make appointments to connect later. Anything pretty much that you need is what we do there. And it's 9 to 9:30, but we do stay on longer if folks really want to still talk. And if you joined us last time and you haven't yet filled out your feedback survey, please do so we can plan future times. And how to best use the time for our new event that we've got. And for this event, please remember to fill out your feedback survey to let us know how we did and give us any suggestions that you might have. And with that, I will turn it back to Carnella to close out our meeting.
And then February the 17th at same time, we have Emily. President-elect is going to be our speaker, and she's going to talk about 8 productivity power plays you can master in minutes. So make sure that you mark your calendar again. All of our events, our BYOL, bring your own lunch, and sessions like this, our workshops are held on the 3rd Wednesday. So we're keeping it at the same time to make it easy for you to keep it on your calendar. So just know that, mark your calendar. That's going to be really informative. Emily, you want to give any kind of throw out any words to make sure that they get this on their calendar and they don't miss the event?
Just the fact that you will leave the workshop in February with 8 actionable items that you can implement for immediate results. So tips, tricks, shortcuts, hacks, however you want to refer to them, but they're things that you can do to tweak your habits, your routines, your time management best practices to get more done so that you are focusing on what deserves and needs your attention as priorities and efficiently move things from to-do to done.
So put it on your calendar. We are looking forward to everyone joining us. And then I'm going to end with one last thing. We will be reaching out, and probably, I won't say me, but Annette Taylor is handling our Young Entrepreneurs event. We are planning a pitch party for our young entrepreneurs. We will be coming to some of you to help us with that, to coach them. And many of them have already started businesses. And so you're going to see a letter that will come out asking if you have any young entrepreneurs. We're just trying to round up the age group. that you know of young people that are interested in starting a business. And we are going to have a pitch party. Bank of America has already agreed to be one of the judges. We're waiting for a few more judges, but just know that it's the end of February. You will see information come out about it, but I just want to give you a heads up because we will be tapping the members to help with coaching and mentoring, so that when we'll have the kickoff at the end of February, and then in March, and this may shift a little bit, in March they will have their practice kickoff, and then in April they will have the actual pitch party. So we are really excited about that, and I know Karina is going to be on the team, and Emily, and helping to pull all this together. But as entrepreneurs, we're doing a whole lot, and we need to prepare the next generation, and so we are looking for our members to help us do that and do it well. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, email any of the board members. We're here for you, and we want to keep you going. Don't forget, you still have time to sign up for the Leadership Academy if you're interested. It's next week, 4th, 5th, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right? Okay, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So check the email. If you don't have it, let one of us know, and we'll send that over. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.